Have you ever really stopped to think about why you talk the way you do? You know, it turns out the words we pick, our accent, even the way we string a sentence together, it's not just about getting a point across. Nope. It's a constant broadcast of who we are, where we're from, and kind of where we fit into this whole social puzzle. Today, we're going to dive deep into that powerful, surprising link between language and identity. So, to get us started, let's kick things off with a little puzzle. It's one that's hiding in plain sight, in a phrase you've probably said a million times without ever giving it a second thought. I mean, really think about it. It just sounds a little off the other way around, doesn't it? Well, that's no accident. That little linguistic habit, that tiny choice of word order, it actually reveals a subtle, often invisible social hierarchy that's baked right into our language. And that is the first clue to the huge idea we're digging into today. And that little phrase leads us right here. The big idea is this. Your identity isn't some fixed thing you carry around, like a driver's license in your wallet. It's not a noun. Instead, as sociolinguists argue, identity is a verb. It's something we are actively doing, all the time, every single time we open our mouths to speak. So this completely shifts our perspective from what's called essentialism to constructionism. Here's an easy way to think about it. Essentialism says your identity is like your DNA. It's a fixed code you're born with, and that's that. But constructionism argues it's way more like the clothes you wear. You build it piece by piece, and you might just change your whole outfit depending on where you are and who you're talking to. Right. So if identity is something we do, then how exactly are we, doing it? The answer is pretty cool, actually. We perform it. Okay, so picture this. We're all actors, and every day we're performing our identity. But here's the catch. We don't get to build the stage. The stage, with all its pre-written scripts of how you're supposed to act, its props of wealth or poverty, its lading of privilege or prejudice, that's all built by our society, its history, and its power structures. We get to choose how we perform, for sure, but we don't always get to choose from the full menu of options. And the key academic term for this is performativity. Now, I want to be super clear here. This does not mean we're all being fake. Not at all. It just refers to the constant, repeated styling of ourselves through our accent, our clothes, the way we switch between languages or slang, that we do it so often, it just feels completely natural. It's a performance we've rehearsed so many times, it has become our reality. Okay, let's pull this out of the world of theory and see how it works on the street. A really powerful example comes from some fascinating research on two rival Latina girl gangs in California, the Norteñas and the Sureñas. They're a perfect example of how identity gets performed through something called a semiotic package. So, what in the world is a semiotic package? Well, it's not just one thing. It's a whole system of symbols that all work together. It's the specific slang they use, the color of the bandana, the style of makeup, even the way they stand. All these little pieces line up to make an identity that's totally clear and readable to anyone who knows the code. And this is where it gets really interesting. The meaning only works because of contrast. A red bandana only screams Norteña because the blue bandana exists to scream Sureña. Identity is defined as much by what it is as by what it is not. And this whole idea of performing identity through symbols and contrast, it's not just for gangs. It's something we are all doing all the time. Let's look at another powerful performance, how the very structure of our language creates and reinforces our ideas about gender. Okay, let's circle back to that question from the beginning. English is absolutely packed with these fixed pairs where the male term almost always comes first. Man and wife, brother and sister, son and daughter, on and on. There's no grammar rule that says it has to be this way, but it's such a powerful habit. It subtly, quietly, puts the masculine in first place and the feminine in second. The one big exception, bride and groom, is really only used in the very specific context of the wedding ceremony itself. But it gets even deeper than just word order. There's this fascinating and frankly kind of disturbing linguistic process called semantic derogation. Think of it like a slow downward spiral where words that are associated with women tend to pick up negative or less serious meanings over time, while the male versions just stay neutral. Let me give you a few examples, and they're kind of wild. The word hussy, originally it just meant housewife, a totally neutral term. Wench, that just meant a girl, a female child. And even today, think about the word queen. It can be thrown around in a negative way, drama queen, to imply someone's being difficult, in a way the word king just isn't. It's like a linguistic footprint, showing how a society's biases can literally change the meaning of a word over the centuries.
All right, so we've seen how language helps build our own identity from the inside, but what about how it's used to define other people, often from the outside, and a lot of times by making fun of them? This is a phenomenon that the linguist Jane Hill called mock Spanish. It's what happens when English speakers, usually white Americans, grab Spanish phrases and use them with a deliberately fake, over-the-top accent. Now, the speaker might just think they're being funny, but the effect is often creating a negative racial caricature. You know exactly what this sounds like. You hear it all the time. Phrases like no problemo, which, by the way, isn't even correct Spanish, or hasta la vista, baby, made famous by the movies. These are textbook examples of mock Spanish in the wild.
So, Hill actually broke down the playbook for mock Spanish into 4 main strategies. It often involves derogation, like using a Spanish word for something negative, think yelling adios to a bug you just stepped on. Then there's euphemism, using Spanish as a kind of safe way to talk about something vulgar. The third one is affixation. You just grab an English word and slap a Spanish-sounding ending on it, like el cheapo. And the whole thing is wrapped up in that fourth tactic, hyper-anglicization, that comically bad, over-the-top gringo accent. And here is the absolute crucial point. Even if the speaker thinks they're just being funny or cool, the research shows that mock Spanish has a very real social impact. It subtly reinforces negative stereotypes of Spanish speakers as being maybe lazy or cheap or disorderly. And by doing that, it helps keep a racial hierarchy in place, where whiteness and standard English are seen as the default, the norm. So, from gang colors to gendered word pairs to mock Spanish, what's the big takeaway here? What's the common thread running through all of this? Well, the first part of the answer is about our power. We are not just passive puppets. We are actively styling ourselves, choosing our words, and performing who we are in the world every single day. But, and this is the flip side, and it's just as important, we don't get to choose the stage we perform on. Those performances are always being shaped and judged by the social structures, the power dynamics, and all the historical baggage of the world we happen to live in. Our freedom to perform is always running up against some limits. And all of this leaves us with one final question, and it's for you to think about. Your accent, the slang you use, the jokes you tell, the different way you talk to your boss versus your best friend, all of it is a performance. So how does your language build who you are?